Hi, Tony Bradshaw with AddSomeToYourIncome.com here to talk about whether a vegetable garden is a passive income item or just a way to reduce your expenses, share my thoughts and perspective on gardening against the income. It's kind of a really big analogy that I am making. My favorite analogy of money is that it's a flow. It's like currency. It comes in, whoosh, and as it comes to you, to be successful, to be wealthy, to be rich, you have the ability to give some of that away, and you have the ability to keep some of that. So you save to give, you save to keep, you also save to spend for later. This analogy today is a vegetable garden. Let's dive in. Why is this happening? So yesterday I got a phone call from a friend. We used to live in the same neighborhood. We've moved far apart and we still stay in contact with each other. And she called and was saying they had some vegetable starts that they were willing to share with us. Some peppers and some lettuce, and I said yes. So it is currently Friday while I'm making this video, and tomorrow I plan to go over there and get some vegetable starts that they already started, which is awesome because I haven't actually got my seeds in the ground yet. Springtime's time to do that, just hasn't happened. Working on a couple other projects around the place. Anyway, not about those projects, but about the vegetable garden. Let me talk about how passive income. Now, if you've been following on this channel, you know that I like to say that passive income is being paid at harvest. Passive income is being paid at harvest. You work in the springtime to prepare the ground. You might have done planning during winter of what's going to go into the garden. You actually finally plant through the summer, you water, you weed, you tend to these plants until the fall when you get to harvest, and that's when the payout is for passive income. So vegetable gardening, is it passive income? Does it actually make you money? What is the process? The process included me last night digging in the garden. Why was I digging instead of using a machine? Because I went to my neighbor that I've borrowed the machine year after year after year. And this neighbor has recently put a shed where their main garden part was, and they decided to just put grass through the rest of it and not have a vegetable garden anymore. They're in retirement years. They're realizing we're not really needing those vegetables. We can get them from the store. And they have covered over the garden and they didn't need the tiller anymore. So when I show up, she says, we actually sold it to our son-in-law and don't have it anymore. And I'm like, okay, well, maybe I'll rent one. Instead of rent one, which is just increasing my expenses, I decide to just use the shovel. And that just takes a little bit longer. I get some more exercise and I shovel in the spot where the garden's going to be. So you have to imagine me working until after sunset, until it gets kind of dark, working to get the ground ready. Today, I should be able to put the weed barrier down. I like to do weed barrier where I garden, and there's a whole analogy there that we'll see if I can pull that in as part of this process of passive income. In fact, maybe I'll go there now because I think it'll fit. So when you're working on something, let's say you decide you're going to, the thing that's you that you're going to do that's valuable to bring to the world is writing. And you decide you're going to set aside a certain time on this day of the week, from this time to this time, I'm going to work on writing. Okay? You do that. But for me, it's this right now. I've set aside this time to be when I create a video to put onto the channel. The Tony Bradshaw channel gets videos because I have set the time when I'm going to make these videos. And here I am making this video and it will make it to the channel. So that's the weed barrier. I set aside this time. Weed barrier prevents other things from growing except the thing that I want to grow. And what I do with the weed barrier is I lay it down, and it still has little holes in it from where we grew last year. So I rolled it back and then, did the shoveling or tilling and put in some more compost, preparing that soil, that ground. And now that that's been tilled over and maybe just another quick rake on it, it'll be ready because there's still some dirt clobs in there. Our soil is kind of clay. So again, you need to keep enriching it and getting it ready. Then bring the weed barrier over and cover that. Then I have those spots to put the seeds or the seedlings, the small plants, in where they will grow. If any weeds show up in there, we pull them out, and we have our plants grow quite nicely inside of weed barrier. Highly recommend weed barrier. It's kind of costly. It's a little expensive. Again, I'm hoping you're getting to see where this analogy is going about the money. I'll talk about the straight up how much money it takes. In this gardening, it's buying the seeds, it's buying the seedlings, it's buying that weed barrier. It is quite a few expenses. When we started looking at it, we began to see there are some expenses in getting these. And there's no guarantee that it's actually going to become really great fruit. Last year, I accidentally had the cucumbers too close to the squash, and we got squashcumbers or Q-squashums or whatever you want to call it. And the cucumber plant produced these huge yellow-colored but pokey and very nasty vegetables. The only way we could find that we could even have these was we sliced them and we dehydrated them to get these little slices, and then we put a little bit, I think it was garlic salt, and we could finally palate, but only about half the family could palate it. So it's really interesting when you work on passive income, when you work on the things that you're going to give to the world and create. You put your vegetable garden in and you kind of misplan things a little bit. You end up with some product you weren't even planning on, and most of the people don't like it. And you try to figure out how to get it to be something that people like. What can you do to make this actually be productive and actually come into not just fruition, but something that will be that flow of money for you. Okay, back to the actual expenses. We realized that if the garden produces a whole bunch of zucchini, we have the zucchini, we get to make it. And we also realize, and it's partly where I live, there are a number of other of the neighbors and people in our community have lots of zucchini. So usually we can get enough zucchini for our family from people who are just giving to us. So how much zucchini do you actually grow when you don't eat more than what your neighbors are already trying to offer to you? And we started to really look at and see, okay, the vegetable garden, it may actually be more expensive than just getting it from the store. The cost and all these other things that we're putting into it. So is it actually making us money? We're not professional farmers that are making money on these vegetables. And we've got some herbs, we've got like onions, we've got some things that are in there that help us to cook and have fresh flavors from the yard, which is great. And then we have those, they come in and they enrich our food, right? And we enjoy that, we do. I just finally realized though, this is where the or part comes on this. This is the part that's just this little nugget that I realized we can focus on that will actually help us on the financial part by growing things in our yard. And that is how expensive fruit is. Fruits like berries are very costly. So we have invested, I call it more of an investment, in plants that are fruits. And when these come into fruition, we really feel like we have gained something. We have not had to put very much money into it. The berries produce quite well, and their cost, like to get a little container of raspberries, is sometimes $10. And we can grow a lot of raspberries in our yard. It's just because the processing of those raspberries to get to the market is so expensive. They are expensive. And so our gardening, so I had in here, vegetable gardening, is it like passive income? All the analogy side, yes, all that work and work and work, and then you end up with fruit. And then what do you do with the odd, weird fruit? And you share it with others, and you have so much you're able to give to the world. As for the actual expenses of vegetable gardening, you might find that you put in just as much expense, dollars, as buying vegetables at the store. And you might as well have the ones that are there in season, fresh, ready to go, and be able to work with. What I have as the or is, okay, instead of vegetable gardening, where we really see bang for our buck is growing grapes, apples, cherries. We have plum, a plum apricot mix. It's called plum apricot. What was it called again? Aprium? Aprium. Peaches, pears. The fruits that are coming. We have a nectarine tree. These trees that are now in the yard producing fruit. The raspberries, the boysenberries, the blackberries. We have loganberries, which are thornless, which is interesting and kind of its own thing. That they don't produce as much or as sweet of fruit, but they do produce well, and you don't have to worry about thorns. All the fruit is what we're realizing. So it's as you work at something, as you find your way and you're getting there, you'll realize what really gives you that bang for your buck, gets you to not just have a break even on your expenses, but actually to see income coming to you as you hit the market with the thing that you're creating. Please use your imagination just a little bit to carry this analogy of a garden into what you are doing to get your passive income to flow to you. I look forward to seeing you on the other side.